Teachers are equally important than their students. Okay, so.
Very well, over to you. I will begin live streaming, right? Over to you, Ula.
We started recording, yeah?
Yes, yes, recording is in progress, and
we have some people who want to join us, so
recording is in progress, and
some people who want to join us, so
yes, so I will continue letting them in.
You will. Okay, so then that's the time for me and you. Okay, we will still have time at the end of the presentation to talk. And while the presentation, I cannot see the chat. So if you want to say something, just say it. It's okay. You can just disrupt me. It's not a problem. We can talk. At the end, there will be time for the discussion. I remember 2 months ago, there was a really, 10 minutes. 10 minutes, we spent more than 10 minutes. We wanted to talk and talk and talk, and there were a lot of people who wanted to say something. So it's great, there will be time to talk. Today I'm going to talk about, as I said, pair work and group work mostly, but every pattern of interaction we can talk about while teaching English to students, not only to young learners. I'm mostly interested in teaching English to young learners, of course, that's my interest, but not only I teach different groups, I teach how to teach, so I am involved in different projects connected with didactics. Okay, so pair work and group work, some theory, because I know that you want it. I want to refresh the knowledge of yours, that's why. But then, of course, a lot, I hope, even more exercises to show you. What are the patterns of interaction we use? Okay, we put the teacher in the center, and it is good because the teacher explains what students are to do, what students are to make, what students are to sing, what students are to rhyme. So whatever, so instructions come from the teacher. But the instruction may also come from the student. So, for example, when we repeat the same kind of activity, for example, close your eyes, open your eyes, when we teach students what's missing game, then after some time, a student can be a teacher, and then he or she can give others, teach students instructions how to play the game. Okay, so teacher-centered activity is important, and the teacher should also control. But while the lesson, there should always be time for students to feel that they are responsible for their learning process. Okay, but without a good teacher, we cannot have good students. Okay, so students also work individually, and there are a lot of work, especially tests. We don't like students when they do tests or complete tests in pairs, but I do it from time to time. For me, a test is just a kind of an exercise to make students feel that they know something. So it's not a problem for me when I ask them to work in pairs, and when they work in pairs and they complete the exercise from a test in pairs. Of course, only when I want them to do it in pairs. When I want them to fill in the exercises individually, they should do it individually. Okay, so there are a lot of work we can ask students to do individually. When we organize listening activity, reading activity, sometimes writing, but I think reading and listening mostly. First, I want students to work out individually, okay, work the exercises individually, work the problems individually. But before I check, I always ask them to check in pairs. Okay, so then they can discuss the answers. Okay, then they listen again, or they read again. They listen and read individually, and then I ask them to work in pairs before I am the teacher who checks the exercise, the answers. Okay, so even if we work individually, or even if we make students work individually, it's not like that they work individually since the beginning till the end of every exercise, since the beginning till the end of every lesson. All the types of interaction should be involved in the lesson, and of course sometimes we spend time working more time working in groups or individual. I love working in pairs and I love working in groups. Why? Because I know that students feel more free to decide, or freer to decide what they are to say. They feel maybe I develop autonomy. That is the point which we teachers should think about. When they work in pairs, they have the time to discuss. I know it happens very often that when we make students work in pairs or in groups, they don't speak English. I know it is like that. But if we give them a lot of examples of the language they can use, a lot of prompts, a lot of grammar points they can use, the structures, they will start speaking more and more in English, even when working in pairs. And of course, we put students in pairs or in groups because we want to extend the speaking time. When we ask one student, then one student speaks for, I don't know, 1 minute or 2 minutes. But when we put students in pairs, then it means that 30 students or 15 students speak at the same time, at least. Okay, so that's why it is good. Okay, when there is a teacher-centered activity, then we teach everything. That's why we love it. And when we talk about giving instructions, made by the teacher. Okay, I mean that the teacher tells students what to do, but then the teacher should ask in the mother tongue what the activity is about. Okay? So you can ask a student to tell others or to repeat what they are to do. You can do it in mother. The instruction is you cannot give the whole instruction at one time, because then student will not remember. Okay, so when we work with very small kids or when we work with beginners, the instructions should be shorter. Just open the books, read, listen. Okay, and then time when we make our student be more advanced, we can say, I would like you to open the book and find blah, blah, blah. So the activity becomes longer and longer, and it's okay. And when we want, for example, children do some crafts, we cannot say, okay, now I would like you to take the scissors, I would like to cut, I would like you to paint, I would like you to color, I would like you to make, etc., etc. No, we could say, okay, show me the scissors. Then we wait until everybody shows us the scissors. Then we ask them, okay, take scissors in your right hand, in the left hand when somebody is a left-hand person. Take the piece of paper, blah, blah, blah. And then we wait for the teacher, for students to fill in or to complete that part of the instruction. But you can admit that when the teacher is the teacher center, the teacher everything, the teacher controls everything, the teacher is active, and it is not bad when the teacher is active, but students just follow the teacher. There is no time for being active. There is no time for asking questions. Okay? And of course, if it takes too much time for the teacher to be the only active person, students may feel bored. When we work with teachers when I work with teachers, very often does it happen that they just provide lectures. And lectures are not that interactive. Of course, I try to make them interactive, but they are not that interactive as I would like them to be, especially when I provide webinars today. Okay, you can ask me questions, but I know that you may not, maybe I am speaking too fast and you will not interrupt me, and you don't feel that you can interrupt me. When I provide face-to-face lessons, face-to-face lectures, then I can see when students are getting bored, and then I can stop and I can provide some activity to them. Okay, I can ask them questions. My students are not afraid of asking questions. Okay, they know they can interrupt me. They can even discuss with me. They can say they don't agree, and it's okay. When I provide them with some example, and I want them to provide their own examples. Okay, when there are face-to-face lessons, it's much easier. But if we spend too much time being an only active person, everybody will get bored. Okay, so but when we explain grammar rules, the teacher should do it. Oh, I know that the grammar should be put in context, and it is put in context in a listening piece, in a reading. It's okay. Then there is grammar, but then there should always be time for explaining grammar rules, especially when the grammar rules are a new thing for our students. When we are beginners, when we talk about young learners, not children, because we don't teach grammar to children, but those who are 12, 13, 14 years old can discuss grammar points, and you can do it in mother tongue. It's not a problem. I am, of course, for using English all the time. There are some moments during lessons when you can use, and I think sometimes does it happen that using mother tongue, it makes grammar rule being understood by students. So why not? Okay, and of course when we ask students to repeat, we say a word and we have to ask students to repeat the word. Okay, we say a word and we ask girls to repeat. We say a word, we ask boys to repeat. And so responses, okay, we can ask a question, make students answer, and they answer as a whole group. And okay, it's also good, but we cannot forget that there should always be a time for the student to become the center of our attention, the center of the lesson. Okay, and as I told you, work individually mostly when writing a test, but there are some writing activities which students should also do individually. But I know that the writing is the task nobody likes, or almost nobody likes. Okay? But write pieces. Okay, students should write, and to make it more effective, I put students in. And before they actually write, I very often ask, I give students a piece of a writing, text, okay, with some errors, and I make students work in this, and I make students find the mistakes and explain the mistakes. I make students correct the mistakes, and then we discuss the mistake in the class. But when they work on that piece of writing task, they work in past. And only then I give them the same topic, right? And then they can work either in pairs or they can write individually. Okay, I don't do it all the time. I know that they should write individually, but from time to time, if you change the interaction pattern, it will be much easier for students to write, and they will do it with, maybe not with pleasure, but they will be more eager to do it. Okay, and of course, when they do grammar exercises, first, I always like them to do the exercises individually, but before I check, I ask them to check in pairs. Okay, so I always come from the individual work to a work, or you can also discuss, you can also make students work in groups while discussing grammar exercises or answers. Okay, why? But I think that in pairs it's much easier. And then, of course, they may not use English all the time, but at least they will say the word that should be put in a gap in English. Okay, so they will listen to the word, or they may read a sentence. So they will try to use English. The more you you ask them to say things in English, the more they will use English. And then, so from individual work to power work, and then when I ask them to give answers, they will not be that afraid of giving you answers, especially when they check that the partner got the same answers, or after they have discussed the answer, they know which answer is the correct answer. Okay, and the same about the listening on the task. I told you how I'm doing it from individual work to pair work, and then okay. I also work with the interactive whiteboard, and there are some groups which are put on interactive whiteboard, and when there is the reading, listening task, grammar task, whatever, I have got answers which I can show board. I love it because then I don't have to ask every student individually to give me the answer. I can make them be responsible for checking the answers. Okay? And then when they answers, I discuss answers with them. If grammar point, or points which were involved in the activity. It is good because then from individual work, I come to, or I switch to pair work, then I switch to group work, then I switch to center activity, and then I am in the center because I discuss things with them, or I am the partner to them. We discuss the grammar points. On the interactive whiteboard, I also have some grammar points which I can show. They are not sure why the answer is like that. If my explanation is not the explanation they like, I show them everything. I like using the technologies, and I think we should use technologies. And then I'm in the set, but I am rather the prompter, I am the monitor, I am the supervisor, but it is not that everything depends on me. This or learning should depend on students mostly. Okay, so talk about the students who work individually. They write things, they can write some grammar exercises when we organize intensive or extensive reading. So read points I said in work, but of course, then we come to the pair work in the way I told you, the same about the listening. Okay, and pair work, which is fantastic. Okay, of course, you should give them the task they will manage to complete. The teacher cannot sit while students work in pairs. The teacher should move around. It's not the time for the teacher to drink tea. I will drink my tea, sorry. Okay, so we should monitor. And I told you that we do it because we want, for example, to extend the time spent on speaking. More students speak at the same time. Okay, we can do it for writing and listening or reading, and then we know that students are more sure about the answers. Okay, but of course, we should find the activities which are good for the level, which are good for the age, which are in topics which are interesting for our students. So you know your students, so you know what kind of activity they will like. Okay, because if there is a topic they are not interested in, moment, I will take somebody to join us. Okay. Oh my God, there are two people who want to be taken. Moment. Okay. Okay, good.
See them.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I have put some people, I let two people in, okay? Yeah, sorry, okay. Yeah, when the topic is not interesting for our students, then they will not be involved in speaking, okay? So you should, of course, it's not easy to find the topic which will be interesting for everyone, okay? But if you choose different topics, then you may know that, okay, today we are going to talk about fashion, and I know that Basia is mostly interested in fashion, okay? Next day we are going to talk about, now there are about sport, okay? We have already had some football matches, okay? So we can talk about the matches, we can talk about sportsmen. Maybe some people will be interested more but still it's good to change the topics, and students should know the vocabulary, the structures they can use while talking about different topics. So when you tell them that it is good to have the range of vocabulary, the range of grammar structures they can use while talking about that topic, the other topic, or different topics, it's good. Then they will, even if they don't like, I don't know, talking about living in China, they will do it, because if you tell them that it is good to know something about China, Chinese food, especially, then or Chinese history, then they will learn for you. Okay, so I love it. Okay, good. Moment, what's wrong? I cannot. Oh, yes. Okay, and now examples, okay? Dialogues, of course. But of course, there are some dialogues when we need 3 people. So it will also be the group activity, okay? Information gap. When you ask students every time to ask about the names, about the age of students, about the place they live, they know each other so well, so they will not like to talk about it, and there's no information gap. But I like the activity find someone who. Okay, it's perfect, because then you can use every grammar structure you want to introduce, you want to revise, you want to repeat. You can say, for example, present simple, find someone who likes, goes, works, loves, doesn't like, etc., etc. Okay, then present perfect, find someone who has never been to, has always loved, okay, has been, has lived, okay, whatever. So present perfect. So every and I will show you such activities because I have many of them to show you. Okay, so you can decide on the grammar structure, and for you is the grammar structure students revise, but for students it's just the information or pieces of information they want to get from a partner. Okay, so there are a lot of activities, and I'm going to show you a few. Okay, can you see the activities? Yeah. Okay. That's a text students are to read, okay, individually. Okay, but after reading and doing the activity individually, they are to check answers in pairs. Okay, so I told you that I do the thing. It's not that I have invented the activity like that. Okay, it is good when students have a chance to discuss and look at the text over and over again. Okay, what you can also do like that you can give the text just to person A in a group, let's say. Okay, and person A has to spend, I don't know, 2 minutes, 3 minutes to read the text and try to remember the text much as possible. Okay, as well as possible. Okay, and then you take out the pieces and you ask student A to dictate the text student B. Okay, and then you have got another activity. Okay, so whatever the activity you find in a book, you can just make something more with it. Okay, you can also put students in a group, and when this text is short, but when the text is too long, you can give every student just a passage, okay, a paragraph from a text. Okay, and everybody is to read and try to, and everybody is to try to remember the paragraph. Okay, so for example, students are given 2-3 minutes, as I said, then you take out the text and then you ask students, a group, to write the whole text. Okay, so every paragraph is being remembered by one person. Okay, so they try to write or rewrite the text. Okay, and then you can and this is the reading and listening and writing activity, of course. So you develop all the skills. Students work in pairs. They are really involved because they try to recall from the memory the words, the sentences, the phrases, or the words, the phrases, the sentences. Okay, and then the teacher reads the text. okay? And students listen, read, and try to correct the mistakes, okay? Or you can do like that you can, group A can give their text to group B, and then group B checks the text from group A. So before teacher reads the text, group B gets the text from group A and checks, so they have a chance to read the text again, then they can correct the mistakes, and only then you as a teacher can read the text. So we have a lot of possibilities to make students work in groups, in pairs, or individually, and we can develop a lot of different skills. So that's another example of a text, okay? The kind of a reading kind of activity. You put the text somewhere far from your students, and the students are to run to the text, and they are to remember a sentence. They come back, they dictate the sentence, and somebody in a group writes sentence by sentence, and then another person from the group goes to the text. Okay, so it's a whole dictation, something like that, and that's kind of a jigsaw reading is here. Okay, so students work in pairs. They can also work in groups. It's up to you. Okay, that's the text which is divided into pieces, and students are to read, and students are to put the paragraphs, okay, in a correct order. It is a good kind of a reading text, of course, but this is also a good example of a writing piece. Before students actually write, you can give them the example, the sample of the writing piece, and you can put it like that. So you can cut the paragraphs, okay? You can make students put the email, for example, the article into the correct order, and then they can write something on their own, okay? So they work from the individual work, we can switch to pair work, from the pair work we can switch to individual work, and from reading, or thanks to reading, we can also develop writing pieces, especially if you spend some time on discussing nouns, adjectives, verbs, some grammar points, some structures. You can do it, because we want our students to be good at writing, to be good at listening, to be good at reading. So please spend some time on discussing grammar points. And how do I do it? When I work with students, every group of mine gets a book to read, but it is of course graded readers. It's not very difficult, okay, but of course in accordance to the level, okay. And what I do, since the maybe not very, but beginners can also do it, but grown-up people, okay. When I work with teenagers, when I work with secondary students, or when I work at university, I also do the thing like that, okay. We decide on colors, so students are to prepare a green pencil or a green felt tip, whatever, okay, orange, pink, blah, blah, blah. And then we decide, okay, that they open the book, they find the first chapter, which we have talked about, which we have found answers to questions which are at the end of the unit, okay. But then that's time for meta language work. I love it, okay. So they, for example, take a green felt tip, and in a text, in one chapter, they are to find out all the verbs, and they are to mark them green. When they do it in pairs, I always ask students to work in pairs, okay? When they do it, we will, of course, talk about the verbs. And when the verbs are put in the second form, because, for example, that's the story about something in the past, then we always talk about the first and the third form. Okay, we look at the sentences. When there are questions, we talk about answers. When the verbs are put in the second form, we make questions and we make negative sentences to the sentence given. So I spent the whole lesson working only with verbs which are in green colors marked or underlined somehow in a text. Okay, then some other lesson, it's not the lesson by lesson, okay, but after some time I come back to that book, I come back to the same chapter, and we take, for example, a pink felt tip or a pink pencil, and students are to mark all the nouns. Okay, and then we talk about the nouns. We talk about countable and uncountable nouns. Okay, we talk about singular and plural forms. Okay, we talk about all the things connected with nouns, capital letters which should be used. When we talk about sky, it should be always the. Oh, Judita is also here. Sorry, I have to take my student from Poland here. Hi, Judita, it's nice to have you here. Okay, so then we mark all the nouns, and we spent the whole lesson talking about nouns. Okay, then after some time we come back to the book, we come back to the chapter, we take let's say an orange felt tip, and all the adjectives are marked orange, and then we talk about adjectives. Okay, so a lot of work, but nice work, because I think even teenagers can talk about meta language, and it's not a problem for them. And after some time, believe me or not, but that there are some researchers connected with it, that when they open a book, a chapter, doesn't matter which, they will see verbs in green, so somehow highlighted in their brain. Adjectives in pink, I said orange, and nouns in pink. Okay, so whatever the colors you use. Okay, it's good. It's a very nice activity with a text. And then when it comes to writing, it's easier for them to put the adjectives before the nouns, verbs in forms that they should be put. Okay, so I love the activities. Okay, moment, we are here. Okay, some other activities. Here you have got the typical A-B activity. Okay, person A doesn't see the text for person B, but it's a very nice thing, because student A is to read the text, it is to explain the text, and student B is drawing the text. It's fantastic, really. I love involving reading. I love involving drawing, painting, craft, even when working with teenagers or secondary school students. Okay, it is good when they can write, it is good when they can color. Of course, not every lesson, but from time to time it is good. Okay, so it is a kind of a pair work, and it is typical that one person reads and the other person here is drawing something. So it's a really nice, and then of course they can compare. So it's a lot of reading, because the person will have to repeat and repeat, because the person B, for example, will have to draw Don Radelli, who is 57. Okay, so the person is not very young. Okay, so student B will have to decide how to draw and to make Don Radelli, how to make him look 57. Okay, and how to draw an electrician. Okay, so maybe some equipment is needed here, so some more language will be used, etc., etc. Okay, so it's really nice. And how to draw Canterbury. Okay, I know Canterbury, it's a very beautiful place with a very beautiful cathedral. Maybe our students were there. Okay, so it's a typical A-B, but it is not the typical, because student B is to draw. Okay, so it's much more interesting, but a lot of reading and a lot of listening. So we still develop the skills, and the revision comes when we compare the reading text or the read text to the drawn picture. Okay, and of course, for a change, it's always the revenge. Student B reads the text, and student A. Okay, and we have got crosswords. I love crosswords, and it's okay. Sometimes they may be too difficult for students, or for students to work individually on them. So I ask students to work in pairs. Why not? Okay, we have got clues, they can discuss answers, blah, blah, blah. They can quarrel about the answers. Why not? Make them argue, it's still okay. As long as they do it in English, then they can do it. Okay, it's one example. But what I love that kind of crosswords. Okay, there are a lot of books which give us half of a crossword for the person A and the other half for the crossword for person or for student B. Okay, and there are here you have got some examples, okay, of the exercises. It can be second verb forms. Why not? Whatever the topic may be put in a crossword. And I do love that crossword because students cannot use the word. They have to make a definition. For lower levels, it is like that, there are definitions put, okay? Or what I do, before I actually ask students to work in pairs, before I ask students to give each other definitions, I make students work individually, and then I make them write the definitions, the clues. Okay, when I think that my students are good, but not that good, they may not be successful at the activity, I put students in pairs, and 2 students are student A. So a pair gets 1 part of the crossword, and then they are to discuss the definitions, and they are to write the definitions in pairs. And only then, when they have finished, I ask them to work with 2 other students who were made to do the other half of the crossword. Okay, so then from the pair work we go to the group work. Okay, so pair against the pair, or pair with the pair. It's still okay, it's good, because I always want my students to be successful. And if they work in pairs, there is more chance that they will work out the definitions on their own. They will not need my help that much. Okay, so then I ask them to work. And of course, at the end, we can discuss the words, blah, blah, blah. We can come back to the definitions. The teacher can read a definition and students can give a word. The teacher may read a word and the student may read or give the definitions they have created. Okay, they may be different definitions to the same word. Okay, so then we can discuss. So a lot of work, just 1 crossword put into 2 pieces, and then the whole lesson spent on revising the vocabulary. Fantastic work. I love working with half of a crossword. Really, really, it works. It works really well. Okay, so then some words about students working in groups. Okay, the teacher divides students into groups, and what we should remember is that sometimes we can let students form their own groups. Okay, but you cannot do it on a regular basis, because then you will end up that students will only work with the same students all the time. No, so you have to divide students into groups. Okay, you can use candies, you can use colored pencils, or you can use colored felt tips, you can use pieces of paper, whatever. You can use everything. Okay, but you should try to put students into different groups, because in every group there is always a leader. There is always somebody who is a little bit too shy, but when they form different groups, a different person will be a leader, or a different person will be responsible for different things. Okay, the teacher only monitors, but of course the teacher gives the instructions. Okay, so students should know what they are to do. The teacher monitors, the teacher helps. Okay, the teacher also reminds the students that they should use English while discussing the project, for example, because it is the thing which we sometimes work, which we make students work in pairs on. Okay, so it's a very nice. Okay, but so students should know, they should have always a chance to ask the teacher if they don't know. Okay, so we have also a lot of discussions, group decision making. Okay, we can make some debates. We can have one group against the other group for something, for example, living in a city, whatever. Okay, we can put and make students play board games. I work with the interactive whiteboard, and I have a lot of games on the interactive whiteboard, and these are games which involve students working in teams. It is not that there are girls against the boys, but you can also put students like that, but there is always team A team B. You can put students in more groups, and then you can provide them with many board games. What I do, I make students make their own board games, really, we do. And I have board games, I don't know what is the size, very big, like half of a board. That's the board game which we play. I have it laminated, so I can come back to the game over and over again. It can be put on the board, on the floor, it can be put on the wall, and students can work it. And as we said, students can work with projects, okay? Here you have got a very nice example of a group activity, okay? Students are divided into groups. Everybody in a group of 4 people. Everybody in the group gets A, B, C, or D piece of paper, and they are first to work on it individually. Okay, they have to fill in the gap in the these are just titles of songs. Okay, so students are to work out the titles of songs. Okay, and only when you of course you have to decide how much time students can have on finishing the activity. Okay, and if they finish, it's okay. If they haven't finished, still they have to finish, and they are to work together, and then they are to find out the titles together. It is like that in every piece there is always the same word. So for example, word love appears in every piece of paper. Okay, so everybody will have to find the sentence, the title of the song, which includes the word love. Okay, and if you think that the activity may be too difficult for students to work in the way I have already told you, you can first make students work in pairs. So it means that every pair, for example, 2 students get A, 2 students get B, 2 students get C, and 2 students get D piece of paper, and then they have to try to work out in pairs the words. Then you take every student A, every student B, every student C, and every student D, then they work together to find out the same words, okay? Or you can decide that you can divide the class into 4 groups, and each group gets only 1 piece. So we have got group A, group B, group C, group D, and then they have to, for example, in a group of 4 or 5 people, decide on the words that should be used as those which are to use for filling the gaps, okay? And only then you can work out with the whole group, with the whole class, and then you can decide on the titles, and you can decide on the words. And still, if you think that it is a little bit too difficult, students may not know what words are to be found, you can put all the words on the board. So it is not like that they have to think of a word, they have to think how to fill in the gap, but they can choose from the words which are on the board, and then it's much easier. So in pairs, in groups, or as how I showed you, okay? The other example of a very nice activity in groups or in pairs as well, okay? Or even individual work, but I love it, a group work, okay? Everybody in a group gets 1 word here from the left and the definition on the right, okay? So they have 2 different pieces of paper, okay? And then in a group, they have to decide, okay? They have to put all the words from A, they have to put them in an order in accordance to the alphabet from A to W, I think is the last word, wave is the last word, and then they have to, in groups, they have to find out the definitions. They can do it individually, they can do it in pairs, but they can also do it in a group, as a group, and then they will spend more time talking and reading and coming back to English, a lot of listening or more listening. So it is a very nice example of the activity. Here you have got the same activity, but for more advanced students. You can see the title of the book from which the are taken, okay, from which the exercises are taken, okay. Yeah, here again we have got the reading text, okay, and here is the instruction is that student A reads first text and tries to find out the answer. The second student reads the second text and tries to find out the answers. Okay, and then they don't have answers to all the questions. They cannot find, because there are in their text there are not answers to all the questions. Okay, so after reading individually, you can put them in pairs. Okay, and then they can read a question, but they cannot read the text from student A, for example. Okay, student B cannot read the text from student A, so student A has to read the text, and then student B listens. Okay, so a lot of speaking. But if you find that it is a little bit more difficult, it can be like that you can put students in pairs. It means that two students get text one, or the first one, and two other students get text number 2. Okay, and only then, after reading, trying to find the answers, they are to discuss questions and answers in a group of 4 people. Or when your students are not that talented, you can put them into groups of 3 or 4 people, and each group gets either a text number 1 or text number 2, and then they are discussed. They are to read the text together. They are to discuss the answers together, and only then you ask 2 groups to sit together, and only then you ask them to work out the answers. Okay, so a lot of possibilities, but a lot of reading, a lot of listening, a lot of discussion, a lot of English, a lot of structures, a lot of vocabulary which are being introduced or involved, etc., etc. Okay, again, we have got a text, and we have to put students into into groups of 3. Okay, student A reads the text. Okay, student B, okay, listens to student A talking about the text, and student C is to observe student B and is to say if student B understands or not. Okay, it's a kind of activity. So after the activity has been finished, there is a lot of discussions about how student A is trying to make student B understand the text and remember the text. A lot of discussion what questions student B is going or was going to ask. Okay, how he or she behaves. How did student, for example, we can also find the answer to the question how student C understood or saw that student B didn't understand. Okay, so a lot of discussion. So really nice kind of the activity. Okay, and we have got liars. Then we want students to work in a group of 4 people, and everybody is to fill in the gaps in 10 sentences, but some of the sentences must be lies. Okay, and then student A, for example, is reading his sentences, and the other students are to decide first individually if it is true or false, and then after all the texts have been read, after all the texts have been decided to be true or false, there is a discussion. Okay, then student A says which sentences were just lies. Okay, and then we have got the best liar. Okay, so it's a very nice exercise for students to listen. Okay. Okay. There are a lot of other interaction patterns, just very quickly to the end. Okay, close-ended teacher questioning. Okay, so at the end of each activity, at the end of the lesson, students, the teachers should ask students questions in the connection with activities we have covered. If they like the activities, if they have found them useful. Okay, maybe not. Okay, at the end we can again ask students to repeat the vocabulary if it is if we work with young learners. Okay, it may also happen that students may ask teachers some questions. Okay, so the teacher can also ask a question, students as a whole class may answer it. Okay, so there are a lot of different things. Okay, collaboration, it is more teachers student center. It is a kind of individual work, but students work individually but still in pairs or in groups as a group, and the teacher does not interrupt. The teacher is just a person who monitors, who can be a helper, and of course the teacher can control vocabulary being used correctly on the ground. And if the teacher notices something wrong, then the teacher can remember, and at the end of that lesson we can come back to it. Okay. When the teacher makes students respond, okay, there should always be a model. Okay, so students should know how they should respond to the question of a teacher. Okay, and okay, sorry, that's something wrong. Okay, but not here in my house, just somewhere in my house. Okay, and as I said, the teacher can also make students ask him questions. Okay, that students can ask the teacher if the teacher liked any of the activity, if the teacher liked any of the responses. Why not? Okay, if we make students ask questions, then they will not be afraid. Okay, and of course, as I said, full class interaction is also a very nice thing, that everybody is involved. There is a topic and everybody can say something, but you can use it only when you know that everybody will be active. Okay, that's why we prefer to put students in pairs or groups before we make the whole class debate. Okay, so when you ask students to work, the atmosphere should always be friendly. Students shouldn't be afraid of asking you questions. You should be ready to explain. Okay, you should be ready to provide students with examples. You should be ready to provide students with some clues, some explanations. Okay, you should also allow students to say nothing. Okay, because maybe they will need more time. So still it's okay. Oh, there is other person to come. Okay, so thank you for being with me. I hope you liked the activities, and now it's time for the questions. I don't know if there are any questions in a chat. Okay.
There were some comments, yes.
Okay, good comments.
Apropos some of the sections. So people are active, yes, actively participating.
That's great. I will take the photo just to put somewhere on the Facebook that we are here. Okay. So are there any questions? Do you want to comment anything? Okay. People are asking about the certificate, but I think it is the question to you, okay, not to me.
Yes, the certificate has already been attached in the chat box.
Okay, is there anybody who wants to say something, ask a question, comment? I hope you find the activities useful. And if you are really interested, I can put my email address, and I can send you more exercises from the book, because I know that the presentation is recorded, so you can download it freely. But if you want more exercises, just how do you separate the students? How, as I told you, okay, I can have, for example, 4 different colors of felt tips, okay, and then they can choose. I sometimes have sweets, okay, and when they choose a sweet, then I divide them group A or B, or just pieces of paper with A, B, C, D written on, or it can be also a cube. Why not? So there are a lot of different kinds. Okay, yeah, some people say that they would like more activities, so I am putting my email address. Okay, yeah, there is a dash between my name and a surname, and if you send an email to me, I will send you more exercises. Okay. So my email address is here. So yeah, somebody wants to say something. I would like people to. I hope you are okay with the new year. I hope that it is nice to start the first webinar with IATEFL. Here we are, and there are going to be a lot of webinars this year, for free, of course. We like the webinars because I know that people also like the webinars. Of course, we would prefer to have face-to-face meetings, but nowadays it's not possible, especially when we have got people from Pakistan here.
Yeah,
Okay, so I would like to go to Pakistan and have some conference there. Why don't you take me to Pakistan? Okay, please invite me. From Mexico, again, we have got a lot. I remember 2 months ago, there were also some girls from Mexico, okay? So probably the same girls, it's not, it's nice, okay? So feel free to invite me to your country. I can come and I can have at least a week or two with students, with teachers, okay? So Southern Africa, oh God, oh my God, we have got, hello. I would like to travel, okay? So maybe next year.
Yeah.
Oh, if you decide I can be okay. I hope you like the exercises. I hope you will be present. When is the following webinar?
It is next week, yes, and I have already provided in the chat box, I have provided the link to invitation and the direct link to registration. So it's possible to, and that will be the webinar of Susan Holden, rescheduled from November, due to the fact that, you know, people have health problems.
Yeah.
We all know about it very well. So Susan will be talking to us next week.
Again, that's great. How can I do help the shy students? Okay. That's I should have said that. That's why we put students in pairs. That's why we put students in groups, because then they are not that much afraid of answering questions of the teacher. I told you that before I actually ask students to give me answers, I ask them to discuss the answers with a partner. Okay, then they are not that shy, and then they are more sure that the answer is the correct answer, and then they are more willing to answer my questions. Pair work and group work is really good for everybody, but for shy students as well. Okay, so sharing, sorry, okay, so I think that people are satisfied and happy with the webinar.
Yes,
okay. And I think it's good that there is some theory, okay, as a refreshment, and practical things as well, okay?
And positive feedback from the participants.
That's
yes,
great.
that's what
I also like it.
Something that really matters. Yes, because it gives purpose to whatever you are doing, and you are just a mine for ideas, as it is said in Polish.
I hope you will use the tasks, the topics, the ideas as soon as possible. Okay. Maybe next week, maybe this week, maybe in future, okay? So feel free to write email to me, and then I will send you more exercises for pair work and group work. And if there are no more questions, I think...
Wait for the next webinar, yes? Ula is going to have her her next webinar. I don't remember, it was, do you remember, Ula, when the date?
In February, I will talk about, I don't remember, no, games. I will talk about games.
Games, yes, you are right.
Yeah, and I will talk about games for different levels of students, for kindergarten students, okay, for kids, for teenagers, okay. Please share again the link for the next, please share the link for the next webinar. People need the link again. Maybe there are so many comments that they cannot find the link. Okay,
so I will share it again. Maybe, you know, people have been talking a lot, which is very bad. By the way, I was searching for the date of your next webinar, Ula. So that is on the 15th of February.
Okay,
everybody remember, on the 15th of February, Wednesday, games in English lessons. That's the title. And the webinar stresses the importance of involving students in games while teaching English to them. Yes. And Ula will be concentrating, as she said a moment ago, will be concentrating on all possible levels. And now the next, let me find just a moment. In your invitation, at the end of your invitation, I have all the information concerning the next webinar. So let me just copy it.
Okay,
and add it in the chat box so that you can go directly to the link for registration, and then you register without any problem. Have I sent it to everyone? Yes, so the next webinar, you have it, yes? And you have the direct link to registration, so you can register yourselves easily.
Okay, yeah, so thank you for that many people. Thank you all for being here with us, for that many countries I cannot count. Okay, that's nice. And of course, please be with us next week, and in a month time with me. I will be more than pleased when you come.
Okay, so let's wave goodbye.
Bye thank you.
Thank you, Ulenka. Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody. See you soon.